Have you ever noticed how your day can unravel before you even leave the bed? A single message, a missed notification, the weight of expectations waiting on the other side of a screen. For many of us, the chaos does not begin at work or in traffic. It begins in that first unguarded moment when we hand over our peace without even realizing it. You wake up, and before your feet touch the floor, your mind is already scattered, pulled into the world's urgency, its noise, its demands. And just like that, the tone of your entire day is set not by you, but by whatever found you first. But what if you reclaimed that moment? What if, instead of reacting, you started each morning with clarity? What if you anchored your mind before the world tried to sway it? That is what this episode is about. It is not just another motivational talk. It is a daily discipline, a mental reset. In the next few minutes, you will hear 12 Stoic affirmations, each one built not to sugarcoat life, but to fortify you against it. These are not shallow mantras. They are deep truths, drawn from the timeless wisdom of Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius. And if you stay until the end, you will walk away with a blueprint, a set of inner tools to help you navigate your mornings with strength, and carry that strength into everything you face. By the end of this video, you will not be waiting for peace. You will have learned how to create it. Let us begin. The first truth today: I will not be disturbed by things outside my control. It sounds simple, almost too simple. But consider how often your peace is stolen not by what happens, but by what you believe should not have happened. A rude comment, a delayed response, an unplanned inconvenience, and suddenly, your whole state shifts. But the Stoics remind us those events are neutral. They are not personal. The flat tire is just a tire. The angry voice is just sound. The chaos is only noise until you decide to internalize it. Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things." That is not theory. That is practice. You do not owe the world a reaction. You are not required to echo every insult or carry every burden that lands near you. The real danger is not what happens, it is forgetting that you have a choice. And that choice happens in the first minute of your day. Before the scroll, before the email, before the world comes knocking. But let us be honest. It is easy to say, "I will stay calm until life touches your sore spot," the one you thought you had healed. That is when the work begins. This affirmation is not a shield that blocks all negativity. It is a compass that reminds you how to return. Return to center. Return to awareness. Return to a space where you can breathe and choose, even after you slip. Because peace is not about perfection. It is about direction. It is not the absence of triggers. It is the refusal to let them own you. And when the inevitable friction arises, when someone cuts you off, when plans fall through, when a voice raises in disrespect, you remember this moment is not yours unless you claim it. The storm can rage, but you do not have to become the storm. The truth is, anyone can explode. The real power lies in restraint, in being so grounded in your identity that no external force can uproot you. That is what it means to live stoically. Not in the absence of conflict, but in your refusal to be shaped by it. So tomorrow, or even later today, when something threatens your calm, come back to this today. I will not be disturbed by things outside my control. Not because the world is gentle, but because you are ready. In a world that constantly pulls at your attention, it is easy to forget the most sacred truth: your inner life belongs to you. Your thoughts, your reactions, your emotional state. These are not public property. They are not up for auction every time someone speaks, posts, or disapproves. But unless you are intentional, you begin to confuse the noise outside with the voice inside. You begin to surrender your mood to algorithms, your focus to interruptions, your peace to the unpredictable behavior of others. That is why this affirmation, "My thoughts are mine, my reactions are mine," is not just a mantra. It is a reclamation. A quiet act of revolution in a distracted age. Because every day, you are tempted to say things like, "He made me angry," or she ruined my day. But pause for a moment. If your state of mind can be hijacked so easily, was it ever truly yours to begin with? The Stoics believed otherwise. They knew there is always a space between what happens and what you do about it. Between stimulus and response lies a moment. And in that moment, your sovereignty lies. Not reacting blindly, not absorbing everything, but choosing. Choosing your posture, choosing your story, choosing the kind of person you are becoming with every response you give. This does not mean you are emotionless. It means you are sovereign. You can feel anger without unleashing it. You can feel sadness without drowning in it. You can hear criticism without letting it shake your core. Because your inner world is not a highway open to every storm. It is a temple, a fortress, and the gatekeeper is you. Think about how your life would change if you truly lived from this affirmation. If you walked into your day grounded in the truth that no one else gets to decide your tone, your mindset, your response. Maybe you would pause before snapping. Maybe you would walk away from conflict that used to pull you in. Maybe you would look at your own thoughts with more discernment, feeding the ones that serve you and letting the rest pass like clouds. Not every thought deserves your belief. Not every emotion deserves your energy. Not every trigger deserves your voice. This is not repression. This is redirection. It is stepping back and saying, I see the wave, but I am not the wave. And in doing so, you become something rare in this world, not reactive, but rooted. Not driven by urgency, but guided by principle. And here is the deeper truth. The more you claim your mind, the stronger it becomes. Clarity is not found in silence. It is found in discipline. You can scroll through chaos and still protect your focus. You can move through criticism and still protect yourself minus respect. You can be in the world without being ruled by it, because you know who is in charge of your reactions. So tomorrow morning, whisper it with quiet strength. My thoughts are mine. My reactions are mine. And carry that into your choices, not just the big ones, but the small ones too. How you answer that text. How you respond to interruption. How you narrate the setbacks. This is your power. Subtle, but absolute. The Stoics did not chase emotional numbness. They chased clarity. They understood that emotional freedom is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to be ruled by feelings you did not choose. That is what this affirmation offers you. The ability to stand at the center of your own life with calm conviction and say, I do not control the world, but I control the way I meet it. And that is enough. So when the day tests you, and it will come back to this, you do not need permission to feel steady. You do not need the world to behave to feel okay. You only need to remember where your control begins and where it ends. Right here. In your thoughts. In your reactions. In your ownership of both. There is a quiet strength in refusing to let the behavior of others decide who you will be. In a world where so many people mirror the dysfunction around them, where rudeness is met with sarcasm, betrayal with bitterness, and pride with pettiness, the Stoic draws a line. A firm, unwavering line between reaction and principle. Between who others choose to be and who you are committed to becoming. Let others act according to their nature. I will act according to mine. This affirmation is not passive. It is not surrender. It is clarity. Because you cannot control whether someone lies, gossips, disrespects, or misunderstands. But you can decide fully, fiercely whether that behavior becomes a mirror or a test. Most people reflect. They absorb the energy they receive and throw it back. But the Stoic refuses. He stands as a lighthouse, not a mirror. He does not let the waves dictate his direction. There will always be people who provoke you, who act from their wounds, who throw stones because it is all they know. But your response is not about them. It is about you. Your integrity. Your clarity. Your path. You can speak up. You can set boundaries. But you do it from calm, not from chaos. From self minus respect, not revenge. Think of the energy we waste trying to change others. Trying to get them to treat us better, to say what we need, to love us the way we hope. It is like yelling at the wind. Exhausting. Futile. The truth is, most people act from where they are, not who you are. And that is why the Stoic focuses on one thing: mastering his own nature. Sharpening it, strengthening it, holding it steady no matter who fails to meet him there. So when someone disappoints you, do not ask, why are they like this? Ask instead, who do I choose to be in the face of this? That one question changes everything. It takes your energy away from frustration and plants it in discipline. It frees you from their chaos and anchors you in your character. You stop sinking to meet people. You stay grounded to invite them to rise. And if they do not, you still walk away with peace. This is not weakness. This is power, the kind of power that cannot be provoked. The kind of peace that does not break when ignored or judged or insulted, because it was never built on them in the first place. Your standard becomes inner clarity, not outer approval. Your strength is shown not in your loudest moments, but in your restraint. When you could match their ego and you choose humility. When you could lash out and you choose silence. When you could win the argument and you choose to protect your energy instead. Let them act according to their nature. Let them be small, if they must. You, on the other hand, will act according to yours. And let that nature be wise. Let it be calm. Let it be forged from something deeper than the need to win, to be liked, to be right. Let it be guided by principle, not pride. Because the person who cannot be baited, who does not try dignity for dominance, becomes untouchable. Not because the world stops testing them, but because they have stopped giving it power over their direction. That is what it means to lead yourself. And that leadership, quiet and unshakable, is what the world needs more than ever. So carry this affirmation into your conversations, into your frustrations, into the moments that make you want to forget who you are. Say it, breathe it, live it. Let others act according to their nature. I will act according to mine, and let that be the reason you sleep with a clear conscience tonight. We live in a world that measures worth by what can be counted. Titles, likes, bank accounts, attention. And in that chase, something subtle and dangerous happens. We begin to believe that our value rises and falls with these external things. We fear losing them because we think losing them means losing ourselves. But the Stoic knows better. He returns to this anchor: what is essential cannot be taken from me. This is not denial. It is liberation. Because everything external, your job, your status, your relationships, even your health, is ultimately fragile. It can be stripped, misunderstood, ruined. If your identity is tied to it, then your peace is always in danger. But if your identity is rooted in how you live, how you think, and how you act when no one is watching, then no loss can break you. Not truly. Ask yourself, if it all disappeared tomorrow, what would remain? If no one clapped? If the paycheck stopped? If the person walked away? Would you still stand tall? Would you still choose courage over comfort? Kindness over ego? Would you still move with integrity even if the world did not reward it? That is what the Stoic builds on. Not applause, not recognition, but character. Because character is yours. Discipline is yours. Reason is yours. No one can steal your willingness to rise again. No one can take your ability to act with principle. That is the core. That is the essence. And that is untouchable. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Not the kind that needs to be seen. The kind that endures quietly. The kind that does not collapse when things fall apart, because it never depended on things to begin with. This mindset matters most when you face betrayal. When something crumbles. When someone walks away. In those moments, the question is not why did this happen? It is what remains. What part of you is still breathing, still choosing, still standing? Because as long as you have your mind, your breath, your clarity, you have more than enough to begin again. You might lose the job, but you still have your effort. You might lose the partner, but you still have your capacity to love. You might lose stability, but you still have the wisdom you earned in the fire. That is what this affirmation reminds you, that your peace is not built on sand. It is built on stone. So when life strips things away, as it eventually will repeat it like armor, what is essential cannot be taken from me. And feel how different that makes you. You stop chasing things to feel whole. You stop fearing change. You stop bargaining with the world to keep you comfortable. Instead, you become unbreakable, not because life is kind, but because your core is solid. And in that place of unshakable clarity, you move through the day with grace. You make decisions from values, not desperation. You show up fully, but without attachment. Because you know, even if everything falls away, what truly matters will remain. That is Stoicism. That is power. Quiet, internal, unwavering. So when you are tempted to measure your worth by what you have, take a breath. Anchor yourself. Speak this truth not with fear, but with conviction. What is essential cannot be taken from me. Then walk forward, not wider, but deeper. Not safer, but steadier. Modern life celebrates speed. Quick decisions. Fast replies. Instant reactions. But the Stoic lies by a different rhythm, slower, deeper, more deliberate. In that space between stimulus and response, he finds his power. That is why this morning's affirmation is not just a reminder. It is a practice, a form of inner architecture. I will observe before I speak. I will pause before I act. Because once you speak, you cannot unspeak. Once you act, you cannot undo. But in the pause, everything is still possible. In the pause, you reclaim authorship over your life. You stop being a puppet of your impulses and become the designer of your choices. When someone offends you, what do you usually do? React, retaliate, defend. But the Stoic stops. He watches not just the other person, but himself. What is this stirring in me? He asks. What story am I about to write with my words, my tone, my body? That pause is not weakness. It is awareness. It is choosing to respond from clarity, not chaos. And that is not easy. Everything around you screams for urgency. Comment now. Defend now. Post now. But urgency is often the enemy of wisdom. The world does not need more noise. It needs more weight. More people who speak slowly because their words are shaped by thought, not ego. Think about the people you admire, not for how loud they are, but for how composed. They do not blurt. They do not flinch. They carry presence. Why? Because they have trained themselves to honor the pause. They know that stillness is not absence of action, it is mastery of it. You do not have to rush to prove your intelligence. You do not have to speak just to fill the space. You do not have to act simply because your emotions tell you to. There is a deeper strength in restraint, in choosing to sit with your thoughts until they settle, in letting your feelings rise and fall without jumping to conclusions. That space, however small, is where self-minus mastery lies. The space between the trigger and the response. The breath before the argument. The reflection before the decision. You may feel tension rising, but in that exact moment, you choose wisdom over impulse. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You begin to move with calm precision. You speak less, but your words land heavier. You act less frequently, but with more direction. You stop needing to win every moment because you are winning the larger game of becoming the kind of person who does not lose themselves under pressure. This is what it means to shape your life by design, not accident. Not to live in reaction, but in alignment. To let the pause become your shield, your compass, your training ground. So the next time tension rises, pause. When someone snaps at you, pause. When you feel the urge to defend, prove, attack, or control, pause. And ask, what outcome do I want to create? What kind of person do I want to be? What principle do I want to protect? Because in that moment of stillness, you will discover something rare: clarity. And clarity leads to right action. Not perfect action, not flawless action, but intentional action guided by who you are, not what you feel in a single moment. Repeat it. Live it. I will observe before I speak. I will pause before I act. Let those words be the gateway to wisdom. Let that discipline become your difference. Not in the quiet hours, but in the heat when it matters most. There is a peculiar comfort in realizing that nothing life throws at you today will be entirely new. It might feel new. It might arrive wearing a different face or dressed in a new disguise. But beneath the surface, it is familiar. A challenge you have faced in another form. A wound you have healed before. A frustration you have survived. That is the wisdom hidden in this affirmation. Nothing that happens today will be entirely new. I have seen it before. The human mind often panics not because things are unbearable, but because they seem unfamiliar. We whisper, "Why this? Why now?" But the Stoic mind sees through that illusion. It does not flinch. It nods quietly and says, "Ah, this again." That phrase, so simple, holds immense power. Because when you stop believing that hardship is abnormal, you stop suffering twice. Once from the event, and again from the shock of it. You have been disappointed before. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still capable. You have failed before. You have been misunderstood, ignored, insulted. You have stood in uncertainty, walked through heartbreak, carried weights that felt too heavy. And yet, you move forward. Maybe slowly, maybe painfully, but you moved. And that is what this truth reminds you, that your past has already trained you for today. That the trials did not break you, they built you. They taught you how to bend without snapping, how to bleed without surrendering, how to walk through the fire without becoming the fire. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What happens to anyone can happen to you. If it is endurable by others, it is endurable by you." That is not a denial of pain. That is the foundation of resilience. Because you begin to understand deep in your bones that suffering is not a surprise. It is a season. It comes, it passes, and it returns in another form. But you, if you are grounded, do not have to crumble. This affirmation is a kind of armor. When the day begins and anxiety tries to sneak in the door, remind yourself, you have seen this before. Maybe not this exact face, but this shape, this challenge, this unease. You have stood here before and you found your way through. So when the email arrives with bad news, when the silence from someone you love stretches too long, when the traffic halts or the deadline looms or the conversation stings, do not panic. Do not spiral. Breathe. Nod. Acknowledge it. "Ah, this again." That phrase does not mean apathy. It means readiness. It means you are not surprised. You are equipped. And if you are honest with yourself, you will see how many things you once thought were impossible that are now just pages in your story. The pain that once consumed you, you lived through it. The fear that once paralyzed you, you stepped past it. The mistake that once defined you, you outgrew it. This is the truth you have been forged in experience. And experience is the greatest teacher the Stoic ever had. Do not mistake calm for weakness. This kind of calm, the one born of recognition, of deep inner familiarity, is the calm of someone who has walked through the storm enough times to no longer mistake lightning for the end. It is the composure of someone who has trained their mind to see past the initial sting and into the deeper pattern. Life is not random. It is rhythm. Resistance, release. Challenge, clarity. Wound, wisdom. And this is not about becoming numb. It is about becoming strong. So strong that when life presses against you, your first response is not panic, but presence. Not "Why is this happening to me?" but "I know this path. I have walked this terrain. I can walk it again." The Stoics prepared their minds every morning not by trying to guess what specific hardship would come, but by accepting that hardship would come. Epictetus would say to himself, today I may be insulted. Today I may face loss. Today someone may lie to me. Why? Not to live in fear, but to live in readiness. So that when the moment arrived, he would not fall apart. He would rise into it. And you can do the same. Start your day with the memory of what you have already endured. Carry with you not just the scars, but the strength that came with them. Do not let your mind whisper that this is too much, too new, too cruel. Remind it we have seen this before. And we survive. Because once you stop expecting ease, you stop being shaken by its absence. You begin to walk into life with the posture of someone who has learned not just how to stand, but how to stay standing when everything around you shakes. So say it with conviction, not just in moments of reflection, but in the heat of the day. When your plans shift, when someone lets you down, when the pressure mounts, whisper it like armor. Nothing that happens today will be entirely new. I have seen it before. Then exhale, plant your feet, and move forward, not because life is light, but because you are no longer afraid of its weight. Most people wake up hoping for a smooth day. They pray for agreeable conversations, effortless tasks, and just enough convenience to feel like they are in control. But the Stoic wakes with a different expectation. He does not ask life to be easy. He expects discomfort. Not because he is pessimistic, but because he is prepared. And more than that, because he knows that in every ounce of discomfort, there is a hidden lesson waiting to shape him. I expect discomfort, and I welcome the lesson in it. Say it slowly. Let it settle into your spine. Because this is not just a mindset, it is a way of being. When you wake up ready to meet resistance, you are no longer caught off guard when it shows up. You are no longer offended by struggle. You are trained by it. Think back to your own life. When did you grow the most? Was it when everything went your way? Or was it when something broke and you had to rebuild? When something hurt and you had to heal? When something ended and you had to begin again? Growth never feels like growth while it is happening. It feels like pain. It feels like pressure. It feels like the exact thing you wish would go away. But the Stoic looks at that feeling and says, there you are. The teacher I did not ask for, but the one I needed. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the forge. It is the classroom where character is shaped not through comfort, but through challenge. It stretches what is tight. It reveals what is weak. It demands presence where you were previously passive. And while most people spend their energy trying to avoid it, the Stoic leans in. He does not seek suffering, but he does not run from it either. He sees every difficult moment as a chance to train his inner life. A moment of anxiety becomes a lesson in breath. A moment of conflict becomes a lesson in composure. A moment of rejection becomes a lesson in self-worth. Every pain has a message if you are willing to listen. Epictetus advised his students to rehearse adversity. To say before the day begins, today I may be challenged. I may be disrespected. I may lose something I value. Why rehearse such things? So that when they arrive, they do not steal your peace. So that you can meet them with grace instead of shock. Because so much of our suffering does not come from pain, but from the belief that pain should not be here. That belief this should not be happening is what turns resistance into resentment. But once you release that expectation, once you replace it with I expected this, your mind shifts from victimhood to vigilance. From self minus pity to self minus possession. Imagine how differently your day unfolds when you expect resistance. Not in a cynical way, but in a grounded way. You are not surprised when the conversation feels awkward. You are not derailed when the schedule falls apart. You are not undone when someone misunderstands you. Instead, you nod to the moment like an old companion and say, this is the work. This is where I grow. That kind of mental readiness is rare. It is not dramatic. It does not shout. It simply endures. Quietly, steadily, powerfully. And as it does, it turns the fire meant to burn you into the fire that builds you. So when the discomfort comes today, and it will welcome it, not with joy maybe, but with open eyes, with steady breath, with the posture of a student who knows that life's deepest lessons rarely arrive with comfort. They come wrapped in friction. In friction, you find the truth of who you are. Are you fragile or are you forging? Are you hiding or are you facing? Are you expecting ease or are you here to grow? Say it again. Say it not just as a phrase but as a vow. I expect discomfort, and I welcome the lesson in it. Then, when the moment stings, do not shrink. Straighten your back. Still your mind. Step forward with curiosity instead of fear. Because this, right here, might be the exact challenge that makes you wiser than you were yesterday. In a world that constantly demands your reaction, your opinion, your presence, what if you chose to carry peace instead? Not the fragile kind that shatters the moment someone disapproves or something goes wrong, but a peace so rooted, so self-minus owned, that it does not ask for conditions. That is the power of this morning's truth. My peace does not require permission. Let that sink in. Because most people, without realizing it, hand over the keys to their calm every single day. They let a text message decide their mood. They let a stranger's tone ripple through their nervous system. They let traffic, technology, and tension dictate the climate of their inner world. But here is the truth: if your peace depends on how others behave, you are not at peace, you are in emotional captivity. The Stoic does not outsource serenity. He builds it from within. He does not wait for everything to be okay before he breathes deeply. He breathes first and lets the storm pass around him. This kind of peace is not performance. It is presence. It is the decision to stay rooted in your own center even when the world spins faster than you would like. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That line is not metaphor. It is instruction. Because the quiet is not somewhere you go, it is something you protect. You guard it like sacred ground. And when the world tries to invade it with urgency, opinions, or chaos, you do not lock the doors out of fear. You simply do not open them. Imagine walking into a room full of tension, people talking over each other, energies high, egos flaring, and you remain. You observe. You breathe. You do not absorb. Not because you are cold, not because you are disconnected, but because your peace is built on something deeper than approval or applause. That is not arrogance. That is mastery. Because when your peace no longer depends on external agreement, you become unshakable. Someone can insult you, and you do not spiral. Someone can ignore you, and you do not chase. Someone can misunderstand you, and you do not crumble. Why? Because your peace is no longer up for negotiation. And that shift, subtle as it is, changes everything. You stop needing the world to behave in order to feel okay. You stop waiting for others to validate your experience. You stop trying to control the atmosphere outside and instead learn to control the one within. But here is the hard part. It means no more blaming. No more pointing and saying, "They ruined my day." No more stories that begin with, "If only they had." Instead, you take full ownership. You say, "This is my mind. These are my emotions. This is my response. And I will not hand it over no matter what happens outside." This is not detachment. This is discipline. It is the discipline of someone who knows that the world is full of triggers, but none of them can pull themselves. That unless you open the door, no negativity can truly enter. Unless you agree to carry it, no insult can weigh you down. So when the world interrupts, when people provoke, when circumstances shift, remember this: your peace does not need their approval. It does not need the situation to be perfect. It does not need the past to be healed. It simply needs your decision. Your peace is not borrowed. It is not reactive. It is yours. So protect it. Return to it. Build it every morning like a fire you will need later. And when the winds of chaos blow, let them blow. You do not flinch. You do not follow. You remain. Calm. Centered. Steady. Say it like you mean it. My peace does not require permission. Then live like that peace is already inside you, because it is. Most people do not live, they drift. They wake up and immediately enter reaction mode. Notifications guide their attention. Moods guide their decisions. Circumstances dictate their behavior. And by the end of the day, they wonder why they feel so lost, so heavy, so unfulfilled. But the Stoic sees life differently. He knows that between impulse and action, there is a moment, a breath, a choice. And in that space lies power, the power to steer the course of your entire day. That is why this affirmation matters. I will act with purpose, not drift with emotion. It sounds simple, but to live it is to reclaim your life from the unconscious patterns that once ruled you. It means no longer being the victim of passing feelings. It means no longer letting anxiety dictate your tone or insecurity decide your posture. It means remembering that emotions are visitors, not rulers. Too many people confuse emotional honesty with emotional obedience. They feel anger, so they lash out. They feel doubt, so they quit. They feel hurt, so they close off. But the Stoic does not deny emotion, he decodes it. He listens to what the feeling is saying, but he does not hand it the steering wheel. He uses it as a signal, not a script. Emotions are weather. They change. They move. And just like you would not build a house based on the weather report, you should not build your actions on a passing mood. Because what you feel now may not be what you value tomorrow. Purpose is the compass. Emotion is the wind. And if you do not know your direction, you will spin in circles chasing comfort, validation, relief, never quite arriving anywhere worth staying. Acting with purpose is not about suppressing what you feel. It is about integrating it. About stepping back from the wave and asking what matters most right now. What decision aligns with who I want to become? What would wisdom do, not just desire? These are not easy questions. They require stillness. And in a culture obsessed with speed, stillness is a rebellion. But rebellion is exactly what the Stoic lives for, not against society, but against unconscious living. And it starts in the smallest places. You get cut off in traffic. Emotion says, curse. Rage. Prove the point. Purpose says, let it pass. Stay calm. Protect your energy. You feel overwhelmed at work. Emotion says, shut down. Escape. Procrastinate. Purpose says, breathe. Prioritize. Begin where you are. You get criticized unfairly. Emotion says, defend. Attack. Collapse. Purpose says, listen. Filter. Stand tall. That is the difference between drifting and driving. One moves wherever emotion pulls. The other stays the course. And that course is not rigid. It is not inflexible. It is simply clear. It is rooted in values like courage, humility, discipline, compassion. When those values become your filter, your decisions change. You no longer ask, what feels good right now? You ask, what is right? You no longer ask, what will make them approve? You ask, what will keep my integrity intact? This is not about living perfectly. You will slip. You will still react sometimes. You will still feel overwhelmed, and that is okay. What matters is that you come back. That you remember this truth in the moments that matter most. You are not a passenger in your own life. You are the captain. And your job is not to avoid the storm, it is to know you're heading even when the storm hits. Viktor Frankl wrote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That is Stoicism in one sentence. That space between the feeling and the choice is your sacred ground. And every morning you claim it, you become freer. So how do you begin? You pause. You breathe. You ask, what outcome am I actually trying to create here? You zoom out from the emotion and remember the bigger picture. You speak not to vent, but to build. You act not to win, but to align. And slowly, steadily, your life starts to feel different, not lighter, but clearer. You stop being pulled in every direction. You stop apologizing for every choice. You stop second-minded guessing your instincts because they are now shaped by principle, not panic. And others will notice. They will feel your steadiness. They will sense that you are not flinching every time the world wobbles. That your tone is not reactive. That your presence is not frantic. They may not say it out loud, but they will feel it because purpose carries a gravity that emotion cannot fake. Even in the face of conflict, you will hold your ground. Not out of stubbornness, but out of clarity. Even in the face of urgency, you will move with care. Not out of fear, but out of discipline. Even in the face of pain, you will still choose your values because values, not feelings, are what define a life worth respecting. And yes, emotions will still come. Let them. Let the sadness visit. Let the anger knock. Let the doubt whisper. But do not let any of them unpack and stay. Do not let them run your house. You greet them. You learn from them. Then you choose your next move based on something far stronger than a mood. Say it slowly. Say it in your mind when the pressure rises. I will act with purpose, not drift with emotion. Let it shape the way you respond. Let it shape the way you lead. Let it shape the way you live. Because the truth is, your life is not defined by what happens to you. It is defined by how you choose to respond. And when your response is built on intention, not instinct, you begin to live in a way that feels lighter, clearer, stronger. Not because the emotions are gone, but because they are finally in their rightful place, not the driver's seat, but the passenger side. Along for the ride, but never in control. That is the Stoic way. Steady, sovereign, and deeply, deliberately alive. It is one of the most subtle traps in modern life, living for applause while fearing rejection. We measure our worth by what others say. A compliment lifts us. A criticism sinks us. One opinion gives us wings. Another steals our peace. And before we know it, our emotional life becomes a tug-minus war between approval and anxiety. That is why this affirmation is not just a sentence, it is a liberation. No opinion today will define me. Not praise. Not blame. The Stoics understood that reputation is fragile, and public opinion is a tide rising and falling beyond your control. They knew that if you anchor your self-minus worth in what others think, you will be constantly tossed by waves you cannot predict. One day you are celebrated, the next you are forgotten. One moment you are respected, the next you are doubted. And if you build your identity on that, you become hollow, always performing, always adjusting, always needing. But here is the truth: the Stoic holds firm, who you are cannot be found in the words of others. It must be rooted deeper. In how you live when no one is watching. In the values you uphold when it would be easier not to. In the choices you make even when no one claps, or worse, when they criticize. Praise is not the problem. Blame is not the problem. Attachment to either that is the problem. Because both are out of your hands. Someone's admiration might feel good, but it says more about them than about you. Someone's judgment might sting, but again it is a reflection of their lens, not your truth. The moment you internalize either, you give away your sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, daily people will be rude, jealous, angry. That cannot disturb me unless I allow it. That is the discipline. That is the standard. You get to decide whether the noise outside gets access to the peace inside. This does not mean you stop listening. Feedback can be helpful. Correction can be necessary. But there is a difference between reflection and identification. The Stoic listens but filters. He hears but does not absorb without discernment. He asks, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this aligned with who I am becoming? And if not, he lets it pass. Think of how much energy is wasted trying to control how we are perceived. We shape our words not for honesty, but for acceptance. We hide our struggles, not out of strength, but fear of judgment. We hesitate to move boldly because someone might disapprove. But the Stoic has one audience: his conscience. One judge: his character. One, compass is reason. Because when you let go of the need to be liked, you gain the freedom to be real. When you stop chasing praise, you start creating value. When you stop fearing blame, you start walking in truth. There is also danger in flattery. Many people are destroyed not by hatred, but by admiration they depended on too much. They rise on compliments and fall when the applause fades. That kind of identity cannot last. It is inflated, not earned. It is borrowed, not built. So the Stoic builds differently. He does not rise or fall with the crowd. He stays steady, rooted, because he knows that validation from others is temporary. But self minus respect that is eternal. And it is earned each day in silence. In the way you treat people who cannot help you. In the way you show up when no one is clapping. In the integrity you maintain even when no one notices. And when criticism comes in it, he does not collapse. He does not fight to defend what does not need defending. He reflects. If it is true, he adjusts. If it is not, he releases it. He does not argue with the wind. He adjusts his sails or stays the course. This mindset protects you from emotional whiplash. You stop tying your confidence to external reactions. You stop explaining yourself to people who are not interested in understanding. You stop giving strangers the power to rewrite your story. You begin to walk through life with quiet steadiness, not because everyone agrees with you, but because you agree with your own values. So tomorrow, when someone praises you, receive it with humility, but do not inhale it. When someone criticizes you, receive it with curiosity, but do not wear it. In both cases, come back to this: did I act with integrity? Was I honor my own standards? If yes, walk on. If not, correct with grace. But do not collapse. Do not perform. Do not shrink. Say it with your shoulders back and your heart clear. No opinion today will define me. Not praise, not blame, and live like your value was never for sale. Because it never was. It was always yours to protect. There is a quiet lie that many of us carry, often without realizing it, the belief that life should be easier than it is. That struggle is an interruption. That pain is an error. That discomfort is somehow unfair. We whisper it in frustration: why is this happening? When will it get easier? And though we may not say it out loud, we move through life with a subtle sense of entitlement to comfort. But the Stoic rejects this illusion entirely. He replaces it with truth, with clarity, with purpose. And he begins each day with this powerful reminder: I am not entitled to ease. I am here to grow. This is not a rejection of peace. It is a recognition of reality. Life is not designed to serve your comfort. It is designed to shape your character. Every challenge, every delay, every misunderstanding, it is not blocking your path. It is your path. It is the exact terrain where strength is built, where clarity is earned, where depth is born. The Stoics never fantasized about a painless life. They prepared for a purposeful one. Epictetus reminded his students that adversity was not an obstacle to virtue. It was the place where virtue is tested and revealed. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what stands in the way becomes the way. These are not poetic comforts. These are hard truths. Truths that have carried people through war, loss, exile, failure. And they can carry you too if you are willing to see the discomfort not as punishment, but as a form of sacred resistance. Growth never shows up dressed in ease. It shows up as effort, as frustration, as the uncomfortable mirror that asks, who are you really when things do not go your way? You may not enjoy the hardship. You may not want the friction. But deep down, you know it is there that you stretch. It is there that the shallow parts of you are burned away. It is there, in the grip of difficulty, that your deeper self begins to rise. And if you pay attention, you will notice something. The strongest people you know, the most grounded, the most wise, the most clear, they were not forged in ease. They were shaped by difficulty. They were broken and rebuilt. They walked through fire and found themselves on the other side, not untouched, but transformed. This is not about glorifying suffering. It is about redeeming it. About saying, if I must go through this, then I will not waste it. I will use it. I will allow it to do its work, not by destroying me, but by refining me. So when life demands more of you than you think you have, do not recoil. Rise. When the effort feels too heavy, remember it is sculpting you. When the moment feels unfair, ask, what is this trying to teach me? And when you find yourself whispering, this is too hard, answer it with, yes. And I am here to grow. That shift in mindset changes everything. You stop asking the world to go easy on you. You start asking yourself to go deeper within you. You stop negotiating with pain and start working with it. Not to prove anything to others, but to meet your own potential with honesty and courage. Because the truth is, no one is entitled to ease. Ease is not a right. Ease is not a promise. What you are entitled to, if you show up, if you persist, if you stay grounded, is growth, is resilience. Is a kind of quiet pride that comes from knowing you stayed in the arena when it would have been easier to run. And the beautiful irony is this: the less you expect ease, the less power discomfort has over you. You stop seeing challenge as a personal attack. You start seeing it as personal development. You stop wishing for escape. You start building endurance. This is a Stoic superpower, not the absence of pain, but the refusal to let pain define him. Not the denial of struggle, but the commitment to rise through it. He does not ask for a lighter load. He trains for a stronger back. So tomorrow, when life asks something difficult of you, when you are tempted to say, why me? Ask instead, why not me? Why should I be spared the very thing that will shape me? Why should I be excluded from the hard work of becoming whole? And in that moment, you will feel it not comfort, but clarity. A kind of sacred weight that does not crush, but anchors. A presence that says, I am not here to be cushioned. I am here to be carved. Not with despair, but with dignity. I am not entitled to ease. I am here to grow. Let that truth carry you through the next hard thing, not as a victim, but as a student of adversity. As someone who does not just survive, but evolves. Quietly. Relentlessly. Purposefully. There is a moment in every day, sometimes big, sometimes barely noticeable, when life throws something unexpected at you. A sharp word, a sudden loss, an overwhelming decision. In that moment, something inside you tightens. You feel it in your chest, in your breath, in your thoughts spiraling toward panic. It is the edge, the crossroad. And how you meet that moment will shape not just your day, but your character. That is why the Stoic carries this final affirmation like armor: whatever happens, I will handle it calmly, wisely, completely. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, but fully present, conscious, responsible. Because let us be honest, you cannot predict everything. You cannot control everything, but you can prepare your mind for anything. That is what the Stoic does. He does not wait for life to be gentle. He trains for it to be rough. He does not pray for the absence of challenge. He prepares for the presence of self. To handle something does not mean to like it. It does not mean to welcome pain with open arms. It means to face it, to stay awake inside it, to respond instead of collapse. It means to move through it without giving it the keys to your identity. When you say, I will handle it, you are not denying emotion. You are declaring agency. You are reminding yourself that fear might visit, but it does not own you. That confusion may knock, but it does not paralyze you. That anger may rise, but it does not get to speak on your behalf. Handling it calmly means breathing when you want to explode. It means slowing down when everything around you speeds up. It means choosing composure not because the situation is easy, but because your integrity is not up for sale. Handling it wisely means stepping back far enough to see clearly. It means asking, what does this moment actually require of me? Maybe it needs silence, not words. Maybe it needs listening, not fixing. Maybe it needs courage, not comfort. Wisdom is not always about knowing the answer. It is about knowing what matters. And handling it completely means not doing the bare minimum, not checking out halfway through, but bringing your whole self to the table, owning your part, giving your best effort, walking away with no regrets, not because the outcome was perfect, but because your response was whole. This is the final layer of Stoic practice. To show up fully, no matter how broken the world around you may be. To hold your peace in a room full of noise. To carry stillness into spaces built for chaos. To remain clear in moments meant to confuse you. And when others ask how you remain so composed, so grounded, so present, you will not say it was easy. You will say it was practice. Built. Rehearsed. Chosen every single day. Because this is not about becoming invincible. It is about becoming stable. Not because nothing shakes you, but because nothing breaks you. You have trained your inner life to stand even when the outer world trembles. And when you stumble, and you return. You return to calm. You return to clarity. You return to the part of you that does not run from responsibility, but meets it with quiet strength. So as this day unfolds, when things go wrong, when plans fall apart, when people disappoint, remember, this is not new. This is not unfair. This is the invitation. The invitation to bring your calm where there is tension. To bring your wisdom where there is confusion. To bring your full self to whatever moment knocks on your door. Say it again. Not as a shield, but as a promise. Whatever happens, I will handle it calmly, wisely, completely. And trust that no matter what the world brings, you are not powerless. You are not helpless. You are ready. Because the Stoic does not chase a perfect day. He trains for a resilient mind. And that begins with the first words he speaks to himself. Before the noise. Before the rush. Before the opinions and expectations, you return to yourself. You remember who you are. And you say, I do not need this day to be easy. I need to be prepared. Then you rise not just out of bed, but into your purpose. So tomorrow morning or right now, do not just wake up. Awaken. Do not just survive the day. Shape it. And if this message brought you even one step closer to peace, one breath deeper into clarity, share it. Not to impress, but to remind someone else of their strength. You are not fragile. You are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by how you rise to meet it. Calmly, wisely, completely. This is the way of the Stoic, and it is already within you.